Well, welcome. Hey, this is Steve Gunner at Mainland Community College. So glad to have all of you here joining for this event. I am honored to be able to just kind of say a word or two as we get this session started. They, I am so excited to be able to take part in this session and hear from these presenters, and I'm so appreciative of the CCR team for putting this together. A couple of months ago, I'd sent out an email. Hey, has anyone done, boot camp
I
things? And
I
there's
will.
there were so many responses from around the state from folks volunteering to share their information, and the CCR team was willing to put together this webinar so we could all hear from these folks because I know there's a lot of interest. So I think this is such a great example of how responsive the CCR team is being to the needs in the field. And I just thank you guys again for putting this together. I know I have several of our team members who are joining. They're very excited, just like I am. So thank you all so much for this.
Thank you, Steve. I didn't give Steve any notice. He had like 1 minute to prepare his speech. So thank you for doing the introduction. We're
Sure.
not going to introduce all of the presenters at the beginning because there's so many of them. So as I change the slides, I will introduce the presenter. So our first and basically what they're going to do is explain to you how they run the boot camp at their college. There are 6 colleges represented today. They all do it a little bit differently, and after their presentation, we will give a chance for you to ask questions. And you can also put them in the chat, but you're also welcome to unmute at question time and ask your question. So first up is Jenifer Lester. She is the Director of Gateway to Employment and Academic Readiness. I'm not entirely sure what that entails, but it at least includes CCR. She can tell us. So thank you, Jenifer, for being willing to present about Brunswick's boot camps.
Hi, thank you for having me. Gear is just, I think, internal fancy way to describe CCR at BCC. That's all. Our boot camp has been running for longer than I have been here, and I'm approaching 5 years. The original curriculum was developed by my predecessor and an instructor who currently teaches online now rather than in a seated classroom. It was designed using the content standards and key components of both the GED and HISET exams. We do encourage the instructors to incorporate any resource they find valuable when teaching a specific topic or skill. Most instructors who have taught boot camp will begin each week with a practice test. This establishes a baseline, identifies areas of focus for that particular subject. We do use essential education in and out of the classrooms. However, there are instructors in our program who have purchased or have access to other things, and we encourage it. We have a multitude of different textbooks that we use in and out of the classrooms. And what is used in any particular subject or any particular week is usually dictated by the needs of the students in that particular week. One of the things that I would stress is when you're hiring an instructor for a boot camp class, it is going to be critical to select someone who is engaging, experienced working with diverse learners, because the right instructor is going to create an environment where students feel confident, capable, and accomplished. Wrong instructor can undermine the purpose and effectiveness of the entire class. Our program operates on a 5-week rotating schedule. Each week is dedicated to a different subject, kind of built around HISET. Classes do run from 9 o'clock in the morning to 2:30 in the afternoon. A 30-minute lunch break is built into the day. Students are expected to complete their testing for that particular subject either Friday mornings or Monday evenings. And occasionally they do add an optional 6th week when the instructor determines that additional math instruction is going to significantly benefit the students who are in that particular rotation. The importance of consistent attendance is emphasized and stressed and discussed during orientation. One of the things we tell them, if you don't think you can commit to 4 days of basic full attendance, then boot camp may not necessarily be the option for you. Any student who does struggle with regular attendance is counseled, and when appropriate, we encourage them to consider a different class option that better fits their schedule and their needs. Our orientations 3 times a month, which allows a student to begin the program on any Monday. Entry is flexible and it's always accessible. Pretest scores. Pretest scores are a very important part of the student's eligibility for boot camp. Students are informed prior to taking their CASAS placement test that these scores need to accurately reflect their current knowledge and skill level. So we kind of discourage them from just filling in the circles to get through the pretest. The goal, the general guideline or goal is high level 4s. As we say that, though, it's very important to note that a pretest score alone does not determine their success. We have had students knock on the door and beg to be in boot camp, and they've scored well below that high level 4 and they find success. And I've had students who are level 5 and 6 come and say, this is too much, it's too challenging. The student's success ultimately is going to depend upon their commitment. And as my original instructor says, there's a fire in their belly that determines if they're going to be successful. You have to be willing to be flexible and give that student a chance. Because of that rotating schedule, students can enter in any subject and they can continue rotating. They can also hop out and go to another class. And one of the biggest things that we find, I would say probably the majority of our students come in and they say that their greatest barrier is math. This is where we occasionally add that 6th week. But if that is not enough, we have a math only or a math focused class that allows that student to jump out of boot camp and jump over to a math class. In addition to everything that I've already mentioned, we have a retention specialist. This person is regularly monitoring student attendance, reaching out when we have absences, helping students set goals, reinforcing all of our expectations, and assisting the students as they come up on barriers that interfere with them making progress and success. There is no one size fits all, and the retention specialist understands this. One of the barriers that we have noticed, especially most recently, is we are coming into the students out of the COVID generation. We are seeing these students are frequently having a little bit lower test scores at entry, and this can present a challenge. Sometimes these students might have to rotate through the writing class, the 1 week of writing, they might have to go through it twice. We try to make decisions that are always individualized, and if the student does complete any 2 weeks of a particular subject and we still don't have success, it's time to take a deeper look. What's going on? What are the factors here impacting student success? We look at attendance, we look at test taking challenges, we look at timing challenges. Do we need to have the instructor adjust pace? Do we need to move them to a different class? We're really trying to identify the root cause and provide targeted support to help each student move through successfully. I think that was it. We might have lost track just a little bit on the slides there.
Yeah.
It's okay.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions for me?
Yes, this is the question slide.
I have not been looking at the chat, but there's nothing there.
I have a question.
Okay.
Do students have homework in your model?
No. Now we did run it as a hybrid class at one point, but we are already telling them, hey, you've got to give 20 hours a week to this. So we don't really give homework. However, on occasion, a student has come to the instructor and said, hey, I need to work on fractions a little more. And she may give them something to do, but we do not capture hours for that because the contract is not written as a hybrid class.
Gotcha. That makes sense. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hi, Jenifer. I got a question.
Sure.
I have a question about the rotating, like the schedule that they can drop in and drop off. What's the difference between that and a contact hour? Is this contact hour?
It is contact hour. Yeah,
Oh,
this is contact hour. So, week 1 reading, there's 4 days of reading instruction. And after the reading course or after that reading week, if they decide boot camp is not for them, we still encourage, hey, go take that reading test. Let's see how you do. And then they say, well, I know I'm not going to be able to do science this fast. They can go to another instructor for science. And we really do try to encourage all the students to try 1 week of boot camp in the subject that they think they're going to be best at. Primarily because when you give a student a win, it motivates them to go to the next piece, the next thing.
I have a question,
Thanks.
kind
Yes.
of along the lines of Alicia's. Do you do this just year round?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought maybe I missed that in your presentation, but
You
that's
probably did. I don't know that I mentioned that. Yes, we do it year round. Of course, we have weeks where the college is closed, and then we have weeks in the summer because we are a very touristy area. Everybody who can't get a job can get a job during the summer here in Brunswick County, even without an education. Those weeks can get really, really light. Frequently, our teachers have come in and then there's no students, and then the teacher goes home. We can have upwards of 15 students in a class in October, November through March. So, but we do run it all year. And if I have a student who is very shy, very introverted, and student wants to do boot camp, I will tell them, hey, class loads are very light during the summer. Summer boot camp's going to work for you.
That's really cool. Do we have any more questions for Jenifer before we move on to the next one?
I do have a quick question about the success rate.
Yes.
I'm sure English and probably social studies are more successful than science and math. But what has been your observation on that?
I would say you are probably correct. Writing, we usually find writing and math are the biggest barriers. Nobody really fully understands that answering an essay or writing an essay is more than just a couple sentences, and our instructor really has to promote like the hamburger. That's kind of the model that she uses. Our success rate really does boil down to that fire in your belly. We have students who come in with lower test scores and they want it so bad, and they will write 2 essays a day in that 4-day period, whereas another student who's just here because maybe mom said she had to be here, student, tries to get away with a 1-paragraph essay, they're not going to get that zest into what they need to do. That is the biggest barrier. Or the student who is supposed to be in school at 9 o'clock in the morning and rolls in at like 9:45, and in 45 minutes, instructor has covered several weeks of what is covered in high school quite frequently.
Jenifer, this is Jay Taylor from Veronica Bears Community College, and I just want to tell you that I so appreciate that comment made by your assessment and retention specialist, because that is so key for this to be successful, that you have to have students that are highly motivated and have a fire in their belly, to use your term, to be successful. I know that Mary Jane will speak on that when she talks with what we do at Veronica Bears, but that is essential, that you have students that have been vetted for this, and they're ready to go, and mindset is game on with this. Thank you for sharing that.
Jenifer, I have a question. Do you offer this in the evening? I'm just curious. A lot of our students work. I'm wondering how you meet their needs.
We do not offer this in the evening, and if you can envision it, our students are in class 4 hours a day. If you work a traditional 9 to 5, or even if you modify that 8 to 4, having a 4-hour class would be grueling on almost anybody, and it would put us not getting out until 10. That's just too much, too late. Our evening class is twice a week, 6 hours a week with homework. That's where our homework assignments come in.
Great, thank you. That makes sense. And how can you kind of describe the size of your school? Or your program, your HSE program? Like, how many graduates do you usually have a year, or how many students do you serve?
We probably serve about in gear, probably about 200 a year. Our graduates probably less than 100. I just did a presentation with our board of trustees, and I think our highest was 23, 24. We had 81 graduates.
All right, we're going to move on to the next presenter just so we don't run out of time. Thank you, Jenifer. That was really, really
You're
interesting.
welcome.
So next up, we have Russell Gardner from Coastal Carolina, also down not that far from where Jenifer is. And he's going to tell us about how they do this at Coastal Carolina. He is the director of CCR there. Take it away,
All right.
Russ.
Thanks, Dan. I appreciate it. So a lot of the stuff that we do is very similar to what Jenifer does and a lot of other schools, I'm sure. The way we started ours is as an 8-week contact hour course. We set it up with a plan, and things don't always go as planned, but we set it up as a plan for 2 weeks per subject. We try and run it with the easiest subject first, which is usually the social studies from the GED. They can usually just knock that out pretty quick, and that gives them that one win to give them that motivation to keep going. We leave math till the end because just like Jenifer was talking about, math is usually the biggest hurdle for most of the students. And if we get through all the other three and we wind up having extra time for math, or if we need to add a week at the end of it for the math, we can do that as well because it's all contact hours, so we can adjust it. We ran our courses 4 hours a day, 5 days a week. So it was a strenuous schedule. The unique thing with our course is that every other Friday we counted as test day. So we would hold 5 days a week for the first week, 4 days for the next week of class. And then Friday we did not have class, and the students were expected to go ahead and schedule their GED or HISET and go ahead and take that section on that day, knock that out, and we moved to the next subject on Monday. Just like Jenifer said, we do have limitations for students that qualify. We try to set it at an NRS 4 level for both reading and math. We did make adjustments to that. We made exceptions back and forth. And we also saw people that had lower scores that performed well or higher scores that really weren't comfortable in there with the pace, and they wanted to back out of it and do something at a little bit lower pace. We did have the option for students to attend only the subject that they needed because it's a contact hour. I can just plug somebody in for that 2-week section of whatever subject they need and then pull them back out, and they get their GEDs test with that subject done. And usually that's like their last one, and bam, we've got an MSG and an HSE on them. So that works real good. Various resources that we use any resources that we can get our hands on, especially free ones. Those are good. YouTube and Khan Academy are really, really valuable resources. If you're not using them already, I suggest you look into them. We use Learning Express, a lot of essential education. And this course was really developed by one of our full-time instructors. And he's brought a lot of local resources, generated a lot of things for the course that we still have on file. And I will say, if anybody's interested, I tried to load some of these into the slides so I could click to them for the lesson plans and the scope and sequence. It's just too much to put on one screen. So if anybody is interested in looking at our scope and sequence or our lesson plans or whatever we use, I'm happy to share those with anybody that's interested in looking at those. I have no secrets here. We all work together, so I want to share what I got. Some of the links are specific to our share drive, so they may not work, but I can send you whatever else you might need if you're interested in what's in one of those links to see what it looks like, okay? So this is what we saw as far as outcomes, just tracking back to the last time we ran one. 2023, we had 4 iterations. 7 completed all of their HSE subtests when they had 2 or less needed. Only one of them completed all their HSC subtests when they had 3 or more. So I kind of split it up by the 50% point. Some students come in and they need all 4. Some students come in and they only need 1 or 2. So it makes it easier for them to complete those. You can see kind of our number of iterations dropped from 23 to 25. Our participants dropped from 23 to 25. And that goes exactly back to what Jenifer mentioned about the COVID population now showing up in our program. I don't have students coming into the program and pre-testing on their assessments in a level high enough to go into that class right immediately, straight into it. And it takes them a long time to get to that point. So the number of qualifying students that could possibly benefit from a boot camp style here, it has significantly dropped. And 2025 was the last session that I ran here of a boot camp, if you're going to call it that, like we're talking this structure. I don't think I'm going to have any more in the near future, only because I've restructured the way we offer our high school equivalency classes. And I've changed a lot of other stuff to incorporate some of these subjects into that. So this is almost being incorporated and spread into the rest of my program. So I might not run a dedicated boot camp unless I have something in the summer or something close to Christmas that we want to slam something together real close and help somebody get over the finish line. So if I'm not, because I'm running it as a BSP 2000, not a membership, I've got to have them in the seat, and getting them into class and making sure they have that fire to actually show up and be there. That makes a huge difference. We did write in essential ed type stuff for online work, and trying to make sure that they completed those assignments and things when they were at home after hours. That was a challenge a lot of times. We kind of made that more optional and pulled the hybrid part out of the construction of it and just made that like a support element to it. Like I was referring to it, beginning in 2025 through now, we saw a lower number of students that actually qualified for it because of the COVID impacts from that level of training when they were in school. So I don't know how it's going to go from here, but if it comes to where I need to launch one and run it in a quick shot to help somebody get there, we can do that. So
let's thank you so much, Russ. That was very interesting. We have Stephanie Reeder from Randolph Community College, who hosted us there last week for the IET playbook. It was great to see you, Stephanie, and we're looking forward to hearing what you have to say. She is the Director of College and Crew Readiness.
All right, thank you for having me. And Eddie, I think some of the things I'm going to talk about today are going to maybe answer some of your questions a little bit too. So we do a HISET math boot camp. And you can go to the next slide, Dan. So it's HISET math. We focus mostly on HISET. So let me start with the genesis of our idea. Back when multiple pathways to high school equivalency first, kind of became a thing, we had this grand idea. We had a whole lot of students who they passed all of their GED tests except for math. We had a lot of students who just kept getting stuck on math, and then they would get discouraged, and then they would drop. Sound familiar? Probably. So we started a HISET math boot camp, and so it is built around HISET math. We build it as a membership. We use the BSP 3550, which is that ASE, I think it's the NRS level 5 math, I believe. And that is the recommended hours is 96 hours. So it could be anywhere from, 115 hours and lower. So we generally build it at 6 weeks, 16 hours a week. So Monday through Thursday is when we have our classes, 8:30 to 12:30. So 16 hours a week. And it is just math for that full 16 hours, HISET math. And it is designed to be intense because we are cramming it all in in that 6 weeks. Now, 6 weeks compared to some of you isn't very much, but I'm going to talk about the levels here in a second, and that's going to make a little bit more sense. We do build this as a face-to-face class, just because we've seen more success with that. And one of the keys to success is having a smaller class for this. And, we're working through all of this math in a short period of time. So smaller class sizes are going to be more successful. So our class content, again, I said we use the 3550, BSP 3550. So you'll see that course plan in the combined course library. And this book from New Readers Press is what my instructor just swears by. He works through this whole book. And so the first thing he does is he starts with the pretest on the very first day, and that's how he builds his curriculum. So I've actually had a school ask me before for the curriculum, and I talked to my instructor and he's like, well, I don't really have one. It might be different every time. He starts with the pretest that's in the book, and he kind of customizes and individualizes the content for the math boot camp dependent on what the students need. But he swears by this book, and he works through this book according to what the students need. Okay, so next slide. All right, so student selection, and this is where I think we have differed a little bit from what we've heard so far today. We have designed a math-only boot camp, but we do not choose our students based on their math scores. We actually choose our students based on their reading and social studies scores because we want to offer this boot camp as an opportunity to those who really need this math instruction. So if we have students who have passed all the subjects except for math, or they've passed their reading and social studies, or their TABE score is super high and they're likely to pass their reading and social studies, and all they need is math, then we're going to try to put them in the math boot camp. We would prefer to have them at like an NRS level 3, but we've had students in the level 2 before. So we really focus on students who only need math instruction. And so again, that could be the ones who've passed all the other tests, or they probably don't need that reading instruction to begin with. But because we are dealing with students that often have like a TABE math score of like 500, we do have that 6 weeks. We are building from like a middle school math level and up. So that's a lot of math that we're cramming into 6 weeks, and that's why it is more intense. Another opportunity, though, is that we were able to re-engage those past students who could not pass the math historically. So that when we did the multiple pathways to high school equivalency, that offered that opportunity to re-engage those students that had stopped out. And so when we see that there are students who have passed all their other subjects, we can call them up and say, hey, we're offering this opportunity. Would you like to hop on? So, that has been pretty successful. Eddie, to talk about one thing you were mentioning with the science and social studies, we integrate science into the math instruction because a lot of times when students have passed their reading, they can also pass their social studies. If they can pass their math, a lot of times they can pass their science. So our instructor does a really good job of integrating some of the science material into his math boot camp so that those students, if they also had science left, then they will all pass their science by the time they're done too. That's the goal. The marketing. So how we choose our students, but then we market. We are only currently marketing these to our current students or students who were with us before. We haven't marketed to the community yet. And the reason why is because we want to be very specific with who we're choosing. Again, we want students that don't need that reading or social studies instruction. We want the students who really only need that math instruction, and those are the ones that we're focusing on. So we're re-engaging our past students and focusing on our current students. All right, so outcomes and incentives, or incentives and outcomes. So one of the things that we love to tell students is hey, in 6 weeks you can graduate. That always sounds really good. One thing we started out, especially with the ones that we're re-engaging from that have stopped out in the past, is that if they go through this HISET math boot camp, then we will pay for their HISET math test. And then we also like to have set testing days at the assessment center. So if we are working through the 6 weeks of this math boot camp, the students already know they are going to test on March 13th or whatever that day is. They already know that they're going to test on that day. That's something that they can look forward to. And they're all like working together as a cohort, encouraging each other as a cohort, motivating one another, and you see that awesome teamwork success when they're working through this together as a cohort, and then they're testing on the same days as well. So that's pretty awesome to see that cohort group go through. Our outcomes, we've had 100% pass rate for the past 2.5 years of doing this math boot camp. So that means all of the students who have gone through our math boot camp have passed their HISET math. And if they needed science, they passed the science too. We've gotten a lot of extra graduates that way. They were students that were not otherwise going to graduate because they were stuck on math. So we've got a lot of graduates that we otherwise wouldn't have had. We've reduced their completion time because we've crammed this math into 6 weeks instead of them, dragging it out because they are, hate math or they're really discouraged or whatever the reason may be. And then we were able to, again, re-engage some of those past students.
That's really amazing, Stephanie. I would imagine you have a great math instructor.
Yeah, so that's one thing I'm just like Jenifer from Brunswick said, that is one of the keys to success is you have to have an instructor that cares, an instructor that knows what he's teaching, or that he's knowledgeable. Our math boot camp instructor is a retired from K-12 math teacher. He is strict. He is intense. He tells them from day one, if you don't want to be here, don't. Like, you're wasting your time and mine. This is only going to work if you're here and you're here all the time. He was actually the math boot camp instructor was actually with our coordinator. He's like, I don't want more than 8 students. So that smaller class size really does matter. Now we've pushed it a little bit sometimes, I say we're not going to have more than 10. He might push back and argue a little bit, but normally we're less than that anyways. But we do have the small class sizes, and that is important when you're trying to cram, sixth grade through 12th grade math all in 6 weeks. Like I said in the beginning, it's highly individualized. So this instructor takes that he gives them the pretest at the beginning, and then he really customizes the lessons based on what the students need. So there's not this set curriculum. He has the BSP 3550 as a guide, and he works through that book. But it is highly individualized and customized to the students. One thing he emphasizes is mastering the basics. If you can master the basics, you can apply those principles to some of the more complex problems that maybe they aren't as confident about. And if they can master the basics in a few of those other principles, then they're probably going to pass the math. So he really emphasizes mastering the basics, because if you don't have that, you're not going to understand any of the more complex problems. The cohort testing. So if they can they don't always pre-test together, but they do the pre-test and the book together. But if they test halfway through the boot camp and they get a post-test toward the end, and then they take that final test together, again, that's that cohort mentality where they're working through as a group. And if you can simulate the testing environment as much as possible, the more often they're in the assessment center testing, the more comfortable they are in that environment, which means they're probably going to succeed when they do the actual test. So their practice testing, their post testing in the assessment center, and all that's done before they take their final HISET test. And by then they're comfortable with that environment. Another big key to success is strong advising. And so our high school equivalency coordinator, she's on here somewhere, Megan, she meets with all the students and she is strict with them, just like that instructor is. And she's like, hey, this is a really awesome opportunity for you. You can be a graduate in 6 weeks, but you got to be here every day. Every day, you have to be here. You have to put in the work. If you're going to be late, you better let your instructor know. If you can't be here, you better let your instructor know, and you got to catch up with the class. So that strong advising before entry is very important, making sure that they understand the seriousness of it, that they're going to take it seriously. And I like what Jenifer was saying, like having that fire in the belly, right? They have to want it. If they don't want it, then they're going to bring our success rate down, and they're not going to succeed either. So we want them to want it. So that strong advising is a good way to sift through that. And then of course that mandatory attendance. If someone can't be there one day and they let their instructor know, we're not going to kick them out or anything, but that's going to affect them. And so making sure that they understand that from the beginning is so very important. And then of course, celebrating them, making sure we celebrate the instructor. We always make a big deal of it when he has another 100% pass rate, and we celebrate the students every time they pass, and then they get to participate in graduation. So celebrating is always fun. If you can throw a little party at the end of the cohort and just congratulate all those students who worked their way from an NRS level 2 or 3 all the way to passing the HISET. That's a big accomplishment in 6 weeks, and being able to celebrate that and the class celebrating that together is really awesome as well.
Thanks, Stephanie. That was really awesome. I'm sure there are a couple questions for Stephanie too. Who has a question for Stephanie?
I have a question and I can't figure out how to raise my hand, so I'm sorry. I'm Sherry Thigpen with James Front. So my question is, you talk about HISET. Do you prefer HISET over GED? Is there a reason?
Yeah. The HISET math we've had students, I guess overall there's been more success in our program with the HISET math, and the instructor likes the HISET math and he likes that it's multiple choice. So I'm assuming, I guess, if we built it around GED math, it would probably be just as successful. But the fact that the HISET is cheaper, and the fact that a lot of these students at the very beginning, when we first planned our first math boot camp, they couldn't pass the GED math. Yeah. That's why we chose HISET math.
Okay. Do you test them online or on paper?
In HISET, it's online. Yes.
Online. Okay, cool. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you.
All right, we're not going to sit very long because we still have a long way to go. So thank you so much, Stephanie. If you think of a question for her, you can contact her or put it in the chat, please. Our next presenter is Mary Jane Hartley from Rowan-Cabarrus, where she is the lead instructor for HSE and ABE. Thank you, Mary Jane.
Thank you, Dan. It is a joy to be able to speak to you today about our GED boot camp. We do run it for 2 weeks, and this idea was birthed out of an idea. I was seeing some students come in with some very high TABE scores, and that within a week and a half, they heeded my advice to go ahead and just take their high school equivalency exams and see if they could pass based on those scores. And thought, well, if those students could do that, why could we not run a 2-week GED boot camp? So I set it up that we have 10 students that can participate in, and if you'll go to the next slide, please. So we do 10 students in this. We've run it for 2 years already. This year will be our 3rd year. And I teach the first week, and another instructor of mine, Brad Hamrick, teaches the second week. So the students have to be all in. If they choose that, I don't think I can commit to this, it is 20 hours the first week and 20 hours the second week. And if they cannot commit to that, then they need to just continue on the path, the normal regular class path. So we do expect them to have a reading Lexile level of 1200 plus, math TABE level D3 or higher, or math CASAS level. We are transitioning from TABE now to CASAS, and so looking closely at those scores, level D4 or higher. Okay. So the schedule overview for this is in week 1, days 1, 2, and 3, Monday through Wednesday. I teach, it's language arts, RLA 8 until 10, and then 10 to 12 is the social studies component. On Thursday of that week, they go into the testing center out campus and they do take their test. Friday, the 5th day, they start off taking the practice test in math, and then that gives a good score report and commonalities of what they're missing, and our instructor Brad Hamrick will take over the math and start teaching that on day 5. The next week, days 1, 2, and 3, it is scheduled math 8 to 10, and 10 to 12 is the science component, with day 4 being the test day. Our test days are determined by the availability in our test center. And so at our school, you can either offer GED in the morning or HISET in the afternoon, but it's not, you can't run them concurrently on our campus, HISET and GED. So we strictly do a GED boot camp. Day 5 is a post-test that we will give the students for an NRS level and a celebration, and this year offering academic advising and next step seminar to finish out for those students. We have had 100% pass rate for our students who have participated in these last 2 years, and our fingers are crossed that that will also happen this coming year. Next slide. All right, so on day 1, we have the RLA major components. I really thought it might be helpful if you could kind of see what the content, course content breakdown was. And so the major components taught for RLA, main idea, text structure, and types of evidence. So that, and then from 10 to 12, I have the students take the GED practice test, or the GED ready test in social studies. And we begin reviewing major components of fact and opinion, bias and propaganda, and then the Declaration of Independence. Day 2, I teach an hour lesson on the argumentative writing. And then the second portion of that class is the RLA practice test with the writing component. From 10 to 12, we do the U.S. Constitution and the branches of government on that day. Next slide, please. All right. So by day 3, we then are reviewing any of the major literature or grammar concepts that are commonalities needed to help them be successful, as indicated on the score reports. I love the GED score reports because they are so detailed. And so same thing from 10 to 12, we do the economics and major highlights of American history. I break down and do stations in when we do cover the hour-long quick preview of each of the major highlights of American history, from the American Revolutionary War to some of the World War I, Civil War, World War I, World War II, and with a little bit of the civil rights, and then the war on terrorism. So these, they do a speed sessions in these stations, and on that particular day. Day 4, we do test taking strategies, skills, before they go over to the testing center for their RLA and their social studies component. Day 5, as I say, is the math practice test. We start off with that, and then we begin reviewing for the rest of that time with the commonalities that they need for math, including expressions, equations, inequalities, and word problems. Okay. Okay, so on the second week, we will go through slope is heavy on GED, and we do the quadratic formula, and then take the science practice test on day 1 of week 2. Day 2, the slope and geometry, and then in science main idea, some of the concepts because of a reading comprehension aspect of it. But we also think of the science component being like a science fair project, understanding what the independent and dependent variables are, and the vocabulary that goes along with setting up the scientific method for students to understand. Okay. And then we go through with math review on day 3 and science as well. With the overview, test day is day 4 on that Thursday, math and science. We end with a CASAS-TE post-test depending on which one they need, and a celebration on day 5. It's an exciting time for sure. Okay. So things that you really need to consider. Yes, the funding. We have our foundation provides vouchers for our students for the GED Ready, and then the official practice test. So there's no barrier financially for these students that are participating. And a lot of times students that have the aptitude to be able to participate, just the fact that they can be scholarship for these, that's a huge win for them. Networking with the testing center administrator is huge, because I actually go in and we batch schedule those students. So we don't rely on them to schedule the test for themselves. She goes in and she will open up test slots and sessions for the students to be specifically able to take the test, and then closes back the test scheduling window, because it's only our students that are in the test center at that time to be able to take their test. So you're talking about the camaraderie within that this team and this pilot group of students that go through. They are all in there together. Okay. So it is a huge commitment. We stay excited. It's a high, intense 2 weeks, but once they taste that piece of success, that bite of success, they are so thrilled, and it just keeps the momentum going for them. Okay. We offer it only in March or April, depending on how I can schedule it with our testing center administrator. And we do that because it's the momentum and the desire to pass is really high right before graduation. And so that's another aspect. They feel like there's an intensity to do that because of the goal in the near future for them to be able to graduate. Working with our operations support team is huge. I have Jessica Andriotti in here today, and then Jay Taylor, our executive director. He when we worked with this idea to put it together, these two were on board with helping make this come together for us. As far as marketing goes, I advertise this with our March orientation for students, and then we do a campus fair here at Rowan Cabarrus. So that is one thing. And I have flyers from our marketing department here that they've done beautifully to enhance and be able to talk about our GED boot camp. So those are two ways that we get the word out that we do have this as an option. Who would not want to be able to participate in a 2-week boot camp and have your high school equivalency behind you? So yes, it is exciting. Keep the energy high, the learning fun. Just like others have said, your instructors that take hold of this, they have to have the same passion to be able to match the level of momentum and excitement for their growth, and can see the possibilities in these students to be able to make it happen. Okay. These are the resources that we use. So I love the New Readers Press books, especially for the writing aspect. And then readworks.org, it's free. And YouTube has Test Prep Champions. Somebody asked another person if they do homework. We do not do homework. But if the student wants to do and work outside of class on their own, they are welcome to do that, and we do share resources for them if that's what they choose. Now we have the GED and Me app, which I'm excited to be able to see if that makes a difference also this year. And I do use the McGraw-Hill GED Contemporary Social Studies and Science text, and that can be found online for free. Salt and Light Math Crash Course is excellent, especially for the worksheets and those kind of things that can be provided for extra working through those skills, and mathx.net and mathdrills.com. So those are wonderful, wonderful resources, and many of those there are free.
And isn't it cool how they have a special boot camp logo?
Yeah, they did a great job with that. That was from our marketing department. Yes. Thank you. Does anybody have any questions?
Questions for Mary Jane? No, there must be one question for Mary Jane.
Yeah. I think we're starting to see some different commonalities between the things that the schools are doing, which is great. I'm certainly taking notes from these other folks. So thank you so much for being willing to share. We have nothing to hide either, and we want everybody to be as successful as they can be. And but if you need or have any further questions, don't hesitate to reach out.
I got a quick question, Mary. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm looking, and I'm so excited because we're a small school, and the common thing I hear everybody saying is that these classes are starting out small. So what's an average, a good amount of students in a class? Is it 10 or less, or 15 or less, or 5 or less? What would you think?
I do 10. And that's
10,
manageable. Okay. And it is in person. And as you can see, it's only in the morning. And so that's for those 2 weeks. If they work, during the day, then they're out. They have to be committed during that time. But yes, yes.
And Mary Jane, your students, they've already been preparing for the GED, right?
No, if they come in like in the March orientation and they have high scores, then I say, why don't you think about joining us for our GED boot camp on that? Yeah.
It was just those math in 2 weeks. I think I would need more than 2 weeks.
Well, it really does. I don't offer that to all students just because you would never want to set them up for, hey, why don't you do this without knowing the aptitude of those students. For sure. Yes, Steve.
So, Mary Jane, this may not be a question for you because you guys have such a great pass rate with this, but just to the panel, any tips for those of us who are planning on doing this? Like, what sort of advising tips would you have for us, for students who kind of fall off the wagon by either, they didn't pass that test during week 2 or something like that? Advising tips for us, or how we can be sure they are supported and make sure they can stick with it and not give up.
Right. Well, I mean, I've thought about what if a student had not passed, then what would we do? Would we just put them into another regular scheduled class that offers? With my students, my instructors, regularly, we run our classes 8:30 to 12, Monday through Thursday, and my instructors teach 2 subjects at a time, and they're only so my in-person, I have a science and a math teacher, and then I have another instructor in person that teaches RLA and the low-level math. And virtually, I have a science and math teacher. I have an RLA. Sorry, I have a social studies and math teacher, a RLA, and science teacher, and this is all AM. And then I have a low-level RLA and low-level math teacher. So we have some, to make sure that their needs are being met. And but if they were not to pass, then that would be the option to join and finish out successfully whatever subject they still need. Others may have other ideas of how they approach that.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you so much, Mary Jane. We're going to move on to the Southeastern and Southwestern ladies. Southeastern gets to go first. It's Veronica Powell. She's going to talk. She's the Associate Dean of Transitional Studies and Prison Education at Southeastern. So go on, Veronica.
Hello, everyone. We have seen there's been some great information that we've gotten from everybody. And as somebody that may be starting off new, I'm sure you can pick out something from somebody, even if you have to combine different schools to pick out something. This is some great information. So that being said, Southeastern is a little different. We do a boot camp here, and I show you my flyer first. And I will read my boot camp flyer for you. It says, earn your high school equivalency diploma in less than a week. And that right there gets them hopping. They love that. And so I'll go over the requirements later. And it says that our test fee is $0. So those 2 things is what key our students in, because we say less than a week and we say it's free. This is our postcard that we send out to people. We also post this same post on social media. And we make a lot of phone calls to people and let them know about our program. So our recruitment, how we look for our students is we get students who have only 1 or 2 parts left in the HISET. Doesn't matter what it is. Doesn't matter if it's math or science, math and science. Life happens to our students and your students, and they just can't get back. They've been on a roll, they've been doing it, and then all of a sudden they got that 1 test left and they can't finish it. And so we realize that has happened a lot with our students. So we make sure we go back and try to gain those students so they can come back and finish their HISET. And again, we don't use GED, we use the HISET. How we pay for that for them is through a mini grant through our foundation. I think somebody else mentioned before that you use a lot of their foundation on campus. In our mini grant, we also ask for incentives like swag gear or snacks or different things like that. But we also ask for money to pay for those vouchers for them. And we offer 2 sessions for our students, and they can participate in one or the other. And what's a little different than what I've heard on other times is that we offer it 2 times during the summer, 1 in the day and 1 in the evening. So in June, we offer it for a week, and it is in the morning from 9 to 1. And we only do 20 hours. And when I started off, it was less than that. But I realized that the 20 hours, a lot of them said that they wanted to come back and stay a little bit longer. We do Wednesday to Wednesday. The reason why we do Wednesday to Wednesday, we don't have it on Friday because we're closed in the summer on Fridays. So it's Wednesday and Thursday, and then Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. That's the 5 days to give me 20 hours. And then we offer the HISET exam. It's a scheduled exam already prepared, already planned on that Thursday. So they're doing the 5 days, the 20 hours, and then they come on that Thursday. You already know ahead of time that this is the day to take the test. And then we offer the same thing about in July. It's for 1 week, but we do offer in the evening. So as some of you have mentioned already, that we got working people, and it's hard for them to come in the daytime and take off. We only ask for a week, but some people just can't get off. So we do the 4 to 9. And if they get off at 5, sometimes they're able to bend and get off at 4. Their supervisor will let them get off at 4. And then sometimes if they get off at 5, I will allow them to come in just at 5:15 or something like that. So it's something to work with. Just because I can't get everybody to come in, I do need to offer a session in the evening for my working people. And again, that's Wednesday to Wednesday, Wednesday to Wednesday, and Fridays off, and then a HISET exam on Thursday. We offer it in the summertime because our summertime is like our slowest time. I guess our students want to take a summer break, like the public school system. And so we do have our lower numbers in the summer, and so that gave me an opportunity to have an extra class to bring those people in. So that's why the summertime is best for me in that June and July. Yes, next slide. So our cohort size is small, like a lot of ones already said, probably between 2 and 10 people at the most that we've had in our cohort. And so our testing examiner helps me to recruit these students. He goes back up to 3 or 4 years we just go through all of the data to see who hasn't finished. We go individually, one by one, check it off, calling people by phone and sending those postcards and offering this to them and seeing which works best for them. And then we get a lot of people that come in just because like, oh yeah, thank you for calling. It's been years. What do I have to do? And so when I explain it to them and give them the card, mail it to them anyway, they're pretty excited. So we get a pretty good cohort size of students that come in and they're ready. They're ready to come and ready to get it over with. So when they come, they're focused and they're dedicated. Our success rate has been between 75 and 100%. I would say that 75% is just those people like Mary Jane just stated earlier that it may probably is most of the time that math, and they have a hard time, and a week is a fast turnaround. So I will only say it's 75%, but what happens again, like Mary Jane said, they come in to us in the fall. We offer them to come in classes. If they don't finish in that session, we offer them to enroll in our program as a traditional student in our program, and then they graduate, they finish within the next semester. It's just that week is a little fast for them, and it's normally happen when it was the math. They need a little bit more time, and we don't offer it during that time, but we offer it during the regular session. And so they do enroll. We do offer our students on campus and off campus sites. So our main campus, our main classes are on campus of Southeastern. However, because Columbus County is so rural and so widespread, we do have off-campus sites that are in different communities. And so if they can't come to our own campus site at Southeastern, they can go to their off-campus site and get the same information. We've done this for about 2 years. And this year be our third year coming up, and our success rate has been pretty good. So I'm really pleased. I'm very excited about it. One thing I do want to mention is our timing. It helps to increase our MSG and our completer rates before the end of the year. That's the other part that is a win for us, because we're getting that last little bit of numbers in of graduates before the end of the academic year. So I need to have this data in so to make our numbers look a little bit higher. So this was my last call to try to get students in to help increase our numbers, and it has helped. It has shown. Unfortunately, they missed our spring graduation, but our president here at Southeastern has allowed us to have 2 graduations. So we will have a winter graduation. So even though they don't have one in May, they're not able to do that graduation, then they can do our winter graduation. So the goal is to get them ready, and once they come, they're really excited about that, and then they go ahead on it and they're able to graduate in December. The resources that we use are basically Learn and Upgrade, and that's the online platform that we use. That's been pretty good. Learn and Upgrade, you do have to pay for, but however, I've received a grant from Learn and Upgrade several times, and were able to get some free seats. So if you're interested in that, maybe you do need to contact Learn to Upgrade and see what grant they have, and you can get you a couple of seats free. So that's our online component that we use. We also use books from New Readers Press, and these have been pretty good that we like to use. So it's a variety of books for our students. So we do have paper, and then we have online that our students use. And we do realize that our students are on different levels. So example, we will have a student in there that's studying writing, and then somebody else that's doing math. And they're different ones. So it's specialized to what they need, and they can find whatever they need out of these two resources. We use additional resources, but these are the main ones that we use. And our NRS placement, we have been using the CASAs to pre-test our students. And that was on the computer. They would get their scores back then, and that was wonderful. However, we realized once I pre-test them, I was not able to post-test them. We only had 20 hours. They graduated, they finished their test and they're gone. So I was left open. Me and Jenifer talked about that for a while because I did not have the right stuff. I was showing that I had a pre-test, but not a post-test. Talking to Jessica Rigler, she suggested that we use alternative placement. And so that's what we would be using this year. I'm pretty excited about that. Alternative placement, if you have any questions, Jen's on here. You can ask Jessica also. But it's basically where you don't have to take the classes. You'll be taking your pre-test, your college test. Like I will be using the Opt 11. I believe one of them's out. So I'll be using the Opt test, practice test that I could use for our students. And hopefully that'll work better for us because again, when I was using the CASAs, they were doing well, but I was not able to post test, and that put me in a little bind. So I'm excited about getting my information in for alternative placement this year. Any questions for me?
You have amazing statistics, Veronica.
Thank you.
75 to 100% pass rate. That's great. And I think she's the only one who mentioned that they go back and call people who they haven't seen in 3 and 4 years. That's really a good thing to try.
Yeah, my testing examiner keeps that information for us, and we just scan through it. And sometimes it's fun. It's something because there are repeat people that we've called last year that didn't come, or we called the year before, and we find out where they are. I've had some people that said he's deceased. I've had some people that they passed away. I've had some people that say, well, I've been trying to call you for about 2 years, and then they come in just out the blue, in the fall, and I got a new number, so different things happen. So it's good to just keep going back and also send the postcards out because these numbers change all the time. So if I can't get up with them on the phone, I can send them a postcard, and I'll get them 8 times out of 10. I'll get them some kind of way.
Did any of you have a question for Veronica? We're supposed to end in 14 minutes, and we still have Devonne, who is last but not least, and then Jen Bean has some information to share too. So thank you, Veronica. That was really interesting, and I love the graphic. Your meme, what you use on social media, is beautiful. So we're going to go from Lake Waccamaw, neighbor to Myrtle Beach, all the way out to the Tennessee border. From Southeastern to Southwestern, it is Devonne Jimison's turn from Southwestern Community College, where she is the CCR director. And she's been there a long time. How many years, Devonne?
I've been at SCC 24 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. So we're looking forward to what you have to say.
All right. It's good to be here. You can go to the first screen. So I came into the director role 3 years ago, and we had a boot camp, but it had kind of gone by the wayside. And so it was something that I knew I wanted to revisit. So this is just to show you some advertisement. When we called it boot camp, I decided to change the name to Fast Track, and you'll see our newer ad. It just gave it kind of a more positive sound, I thought. And So our advertising really does bring in people because like you said, Veronica, if they see we don't do 1 week, but even if they think that they can get it within a month's time, we get a lot of interest. And so we're a small school in the Western region, and we serve 3 counties in the Qualla boundary, the Cherokee Indians. And so we're always looking for students. And so advertising is important to us. So we'll post these. I do old school. We take them out and post them in stores. We put them on our website. We have gotten to do some radio spots. That's the nice thing about living in small towns. They'll put you on the radio. And we we usually have an article about a past graduate that we'll put in the newspaper. All right. So also a little different than some of the others. We know what the success rate, what scores tend to bring about success rate, but we do not limit who can come to our classes because I see anything that they get from the class as a success. I am a definite glass full gal. So we we do a pre-registration and talk to students before they begin fast track. And a lot of times they'll weed themselves out because we'll tell them how vigorous it's going to be, and they'll end up in one of our more traditional classes. But we run ours for 5 weeks. This is our first time doing it as a membership class. And I did reach out to the state office because I was a little nervous to make sure that we set it up like we needed to. We meet Monday to Thursday, 9 to noon, and we have Friday as their testing day. I will say that it really does help to have a specific testing day for your cohort. It just makes them that much more cohesive. They are each other's cheerleaders on that day of testing, but we also have additional days that they can come and test if they need to pre-test or retest, or they just can't come in on the Friday for some reason. Our instructor does 1 subject a week and allows 2 weeks for math. The students can choose between testing on HISET or GED, but in a second you'll see our resources that she uses. She is mainly using GED resources. We here at our testing center do the GED computerized, but our HISET is only paper and pencil. So by testing more on the GED, they get their scores quicker. And so they like that. So more tests on the GED, but they can do the HISET. And I just wanted to remind everybody, total transcript has been a wonderful thing to have. And so we do have students, sometimes they'll start on the GED and they're just having a hard time on a certain subject, and we'll say, give it a try on HISET. And a lot of times I think it just psychs them out that they're taking it in another test, and sometimes they do better. We also offer a lab in the afternoon 2 days a week so that students have an opportunity to work with the instructor one-on-one, and that has been very successful for us.
I skipped a whole bunch, sorry.
So there's our resources. I won't talk about them, but you can see that we're using hard copy, and then we do use Essential Ed. There was a question about homework. We don't do homework, but everybody in Fast Track does get an Essential Ed seat. And so they are able to work at home also, so in between class. So that's been very beneficial for students. And here's our success rate. So we rebooted and began in 2023 and started this in 24. And we've had 4 fast tracks so far. We've done one in the fall and one in the spring each semester, each year. And you'll see our success rate, I feel like overall is pretty good. because even if they didn't complete during fast track, just them being part of that group and us making the connection with them that we did, they have been really good to continue with us. And some more complete after fast track even. Cohort 2, I'll just be honest, was a hard cohort with attendance and just attention and everything. So we weren't too surprised about that completion rate. But then cohort 3 made our teacher happy again. And then our 4th cohort, we just have one that still needs to take their final test, and we'll have 100% there. Speaking of the teacher, a few of them have hit on this already. I was very blessed that as I began fast track, I hired a new teacher to teach our HSC, and she became our fast track teacher. And we've had her for each of our fast tracks. And that has helped also because she has got her curriculum down pat and but is always tweaking considering what her cohort looks like each time. Our numbers, 15 is the highest number we've had, but we have a special case this time. I'm going to talk about our partner in a minute, Mothertown, but all our students this time, except for 2, are from Mothertown, and so that's why we took as many as we did. And our teacher also teaches some of our other HSC classes, and so she already knew some of these students. A few of them have taken one test, and so they just need to finish up the rest of the test. So there's some knowledge of the students that were coming in this time. The partnerships is real important. If you have some local organizations that you work with, we have 2 that have been very beneficial to us. One, Tri-County, I know at least also uses, and that's Heights. They are an organization that works with unprivileged youth. And then the other one is Mothertown, and it is through the Cherokee tribe, and it's a re-entry program for adults who have had drug issues and are getting helped to get back into education and work. And so that's where these students are coming from. But both these organizations refer students to us. They help with transportation, childcare. They always bring food to our class. And so the students on test day know that they're going to have some food before they go and take their test. And so all those things just really help to bring about success. I'm trying to go fast. And speaking of Mothertown, this is Cage Jones, and I don't think he was able to join us. He was going to try to, but he was part of our cohort 4, and this is him speaking at our last graduation. And I'll let you read his quote, but he is just a young man that, like you said, that fire in the belly, he had that when he came to us. And he said that fast track, though, is what made him finally do it, knowing that he had to come in and work on it every day, and just kept him focused. And he knew that he could accomplish it in a small period of time, and he did. And I'm just so proud of him because after he got his diploma, he got first a job as a security guard in Cherokee. And then because of his work with Mothertown and just the example that he has been, they have hired him full time now as a program assistant. So he's helping some of the students that are coming to our fast track now. So that's been really neat because he's driving them over. So I would just say that fast track, we're all different schools, different sizes, and we're all doing it different ways, but it definitely is something that you should look at and just groom it to be what works at your school.
Thank you, Devonne. That's a great way to end this with this success story of Cage. And do we have any questions for Devonne? I'm amazed at how many of you have stuck through for an hour and a half. Almost everybody's still here. Devonne, I think your success rate is remarkable too, considering you don't limit the tests. Any test score can get in. You've got 100% to several times.
Yeah.
I like that you mentioned the total transcript. I know very little about that, but I have thought of trying to use that. What does that process quickly look like? Do they have to take anything else, do anything else, or they just take them? How does that?
It now Diploma Center is putting those together, and so they can take either test and they combine it. So
Okay.
it's easy.
Excellent. Thank you.
So I don't think I quite understand that. They can get it. Is it through multiple pathways?
So now we have the option of a tester can take the limit of tests in HISET and then GED also, and they put the scores together. And we see it all the time. Like for some reason, we'll have more success. This is just our school on the language arts in GED, but then HISET math, we see more success. So
you can combine this.
Jenifer can correct me if I say anything wrong.
So far, so good.
In multiple languages, I see someone saying.
Melissa is at Pitt. So yeah, Jen, so HISET has 5 tests, right? And GED has 4, but they can take 2 GED and 3 HISET and get their diploma?
Any combination, as long as reading, writing, math, science, and social studies are all covered between them. So GED, the reasoning through language arts in GED, or reading and writing through HISET, and then any math, any science, any social studies. And there is a 9 rule for HISET. If anyone needs a webinar talking more about total transcript, email me after this webinar and I can send that to you. Because we did a webinar with Diploma Center when we launched total transcript.
I think I'm the one with the most questions.
Absolutely, yes. So we can absolutely get those questions answered about how that works. But Devonne, I'm glad that this has proven successful for you all as running your fast track classes.
We're going to smoothly transition into Jen talking for the last few minutes. So
Can
thank
I
you.
ask one question? And it's
Sure.
about that, so I'll make it quick. We just got a gentleman who's passed 2 tasks. Our understanding is total transcript will work with it too.
Yes, total transcript will also work with task. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you for asking that, Michelle. So hi, I know most of you, I think already, but in case I do not, my name is Jenifer Bean. I am the Director of Assessment and the High School Equivalency Office here at the North Carolina Community College System. And I will very briefly go through some kind of wrap it up resources. So we've heard a lot of great strategies and structures and a lot of great things from all of the directors and program and instructors who've spoken today. Want to talk with y'all about a few resources here as we wrap up about some ways to strategically start a boot camp, just some resources that you can draw from both of our publishers, both GED and HISET, that can help as you're getting things started. So first of all, we have here some specific resources from GED and HISET. These all include links. So hopefully if you guys can access these slides after our webinar today, these should take you directly to those websites. These are all resources that will help with understanding the structure of the exam. So those 3 GED resources will provide some information about what topics will be assessed, and just kind of what is the foundation of each of those high school equivalency exams. And then similar for HISET, we've got two resources here that will give more information about what topics are evaluated on the 5 sections of HISET and how you can kind of structure an educational program to help a student prepare for any given section of either of these exams. All right. We've heard a lot today about student recruitment. How do we get the students in? We've heard some things about internal recruitment. We've heard about folks reaching out to individuals who've previously tested and have not been successful. Just another way to recruit students is from using a tool called GED Prep Connect. We've talked with this for those of you who might have joined me for a recent high school equivalency office call or our statewide call last month or earlier this month recently. We discussed this tool. This is a program recruitment tool that comes specifically from GED. This is a tool in which individuals who have created a GED account can say, hey, I want adult education to help me prepare for this exam before I take it. So these are individuals who have specifically said, I want help preparing for the GED exam. So we would encourage you, if you do not have somebody on your team who has a GED manager account with what's called a student authorized view role, we would encourage you to have somebody plug into that role in GED Manager and utilize the GED Prep Connect tool to see if there's any adult learners in your area who have actively asked for help to prepare for the GED exam. We did complete a webinar back in November 2022 with our previous GED rep, Jenifer. There is a link to that here. Again, if you want to go back and look at that and get more information about Prep Connect, it is there. I will say our current GED rep has informed me that we have about 8,000 students in the state of North Carolina who have between January 2025 and February 2026 said that they wanted help. Pull down some of those 8,000 students. I'm sure they are happy to hear from you to get some help getting ready for the GED exam. All right, student proficiency. We've heard some folks talk about taking practice tests. Both GED and HISET offer practice tests. GED is called the GED Ready test. HISET offers free practice tests, paid practice tests, and official practice tests. Veronica was mentioning in her presentation about using alternate placement for students who maybe are just there for a short time to help prepare for a high school equivalency exam. If you are doing that, the HISET official practice test is what you can use to see if a student qualifies for that. GED Ready for the GED exam is what you can use to see if a student qualifies for alternate placement. But even beyond just alternate placement, we want to use this practice tests to see where students are. Are there any skill gaps? What can we focus on teaching? What is their readiness for the official exam? So those score reports that come from the practice tests can be invaluable instructional resources. And then finally, want to talk a little bit about tech tools. GED offers some specific prep products like GED Flash, GED Play. Those are some things that can be purchased. Yes, they are paid resources. They can be purchased from the website. There is also, as Mary Jane mentioned, as they do at Rowan Cabarrus Community College, there is also the GED and Me app. This is free. This is a free resource that your students can download in order to supplement what they're doing in class. So it is not meant to replace what they're doing with the boot camp or any other instruction. It is meant to supplement. It now includes an AI math tutor to help students to work through some of those math things that are maybe a challenge to them. And then tech tools from HISET. HISET does offer computer-based testing simulations. So this is something that a student can use to get into the HISET testing environment and to just kind of see how the test feels as they're sitting down and taking it. So those are just a few quick resources that we wanted to specifically spotlight. However, both GED and HISET do have educator pages. There are links to each of those here in this slide. So absolutely encourage if you're looking to get a boot camp started, or if you're running one and you just want to see more resources. These are some really, really good ways to plug into what the publishers are offering to help students to prepare for these exams.
Thank you so much, Jen. And thank you to, I'm going to stop sharing so that we can see each other. Thanks to all of you who presented today and all of you who attended. I think this is an excellent webinar. If you want to stick around, if you have another question, you're welcome to ask any of our presenters any questions, but I think we have gone past by 7 minutes. So feel free to leave, but thank you so much for coming. Thank you, presenters. You did a great job. I'm sure you'll be hearing from others. We will post this to our PDI archives on NC Title II, probably by Monday, the recording and the PowerPoint, so that everybody can access all those links. I knew that you guys would love this. This was all from the field. Steve Gunter started this, and the field did all the presenting. So thank you.
The field answered.
Right.
Answered the call. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. We really appreciate this.
Go Steve. That's right, Jen. Go Steve.
Yeah, I have a question for anyone in the group that's done anything where they've incorporated a registration to the college as part of the boot camp, and successes, difficulties there. Something that we talk a lot about at Mayland, trying to, this isn't the end for our students. We want them to continue going and continue learning. And I saw a boot camp presentation at some point, and I don't know who was doing it, but they were incorporating that in the boot camp, materials that were expected to be completed.
I will answer that, but maybe not the answer that you're looking for. Every student that graduates at BCC automatically gets an email from our retention specialist, and it gives the 4 steps on how to apply, how to do the residency application, how to do the BCC application, how to do the FAFSA, how to request their transcripts. And we have made this email so that it's just fill it in and send it. And it's very detailed, and it goes out whether they've done boot camp or however they've graduated.
Thank you, Jenifer. That's actually, not a disappointing answer. It's one that, I'd like to see us start to do that as well.
Yeah, we do that to every graduate. And I don't want to dive out of what we're into here with boot camp, but we launched a class in December. We called it the Let's Go to College class, kind of a corny name, but it's all I could think of. And we had 14 students enroll, and it was all about what do you have to do to get in college? What are little things that you need for success? Things that maybe they didn't teach some of us, how to add, drop, withdraw, how to communicate, how to get that FAFSA pin. And we did a whole bunch of those exercises with the students in this class. We actually had, I believe, 8 out of 14 are actually in school now.
Another great idea, because, we in Western North Carolina, we have a lot of students who, their parents never went to college and they have no idea. They have no idea how much money is available to them to get into it. They think they're going to have to pay thousands of dollars, and it's just not the case anymore. So great ideas, and appreciate it.
A follow-up question for that, Jenifer. Penelope's wondering if that was an HRD class, your Let's Go to College.
I believe it was. I'd have to go back and look, but I believe it was. Using the combined course library is still kind of new for me, but I do believe I ran it as an HRD class. I think it was really successful.
Your numbers reflect that.
Hi, I'm Tracy Buffalo, and I just wanted to cut my camera on so Mr. Steve could see me, and I want to personally say thank you. He's been helping HCC out for the last few weeks, and you have been a total blessing to Dr. Peoples and myself, so I wanted you to put a face with the name. Thank you for all you've been doing for us.
Well, you're so kind, Tracy. I have too many times. I just have to ask somebody on my team who knows the answer. So I thank you for your patience as I go to somebody who knows.
Thank you.
Great. I'm so glad that everyone works together in the field in North Carolina. That makes such a difference.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Do we have any more questions or comments before we close out?
Dan, I do want to say one more thing from the HSE office. One thing I didn't mention in our slides, but kind of came to mind as we were talking. Another resource we have is actually a person. Our current GED rep is Shawn Watts from Georgia. She actually was the high school equivalency director for the state of Georgia prior to her moving to GED testing service. She worked very closely with several programs that did boot camps. So she actually was very helpful as I was kind of coming with some of the GED side resources for this webinar. So if folks want to talk with somebody who has some experience with that, I would be happy to connect you with Shawn and see if there's anything that she can say from her experiences in Georgia that might translate to what we're doing here in North Carolina.
All right, I think it's probably time to let everybody go, but thank you for spending the afternoon with us. And it's Thursday, so the weekend is coming. Have a good weekend. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Great job.
Bye, everybody.